All right, so get ready because today we're going back in time to the 1960s,
Ooh, exciting.
to this place called the Brill Building in New York City.
Okay.
And now when you think of like iconic music of the 1960s, you might think of like a recording studio or maybe a big concert hall.
Yeah, makes sense.
But the Brill Building was actually just this unassuming office building right on Broadway.
Really?
Yeah, but this was no ordinary office building.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
This was like the heart of the 1960s music scene.
Wow, so like a hit factory?
Exactly, a hit factory.
I would never have guessed that an office building would be like the birthplace of so many iconic songs.
Right, like when you see pictures of it, it's just a
Yeah.
plain brick facade. You would never guess all the creativity happening inside.
So like what was it like inside the Brill building?
Well, just imagine like cramped offices with pianos in every room and songwriters just like constantly working and collaborating.
That sounds amazing, like a musical melting pot.
Exactly. And what's so cool is that the Brill Building represented this huge shift in pop music.
In what way?
Well, before the Brill Building, you had all these crooners like Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
But the Brill Building ushered in this new sound that was more youthful, more relatable. It spoke directly to teenagers.
That makes sense because the 60s was such a time of change and upheaval, especially for young people.
Absolutely. And at the forefront of this change were these incredible songwriting duos.
Oh, I love that, like songwriting power couples.
Yeah, exactly. So each duo had their own unique style, and they really shaped the sound of the 60s.
Okay, so who are some of these legendary duos we should know about?
Well, first up, you've got Jerry Goffin and Carole King.
Oh, of course, I know some of their songs.
Yeah, they were masters at tapping into the complexities of teenage life, like first love, heartbreak, all that good stuff.
Yeah, their songs just have this way of making you feel those raw emotions so intensely.
Right, like take Will You Love Me Tomorrow.
Oh, such a classic.
The lyrics are so simple, but so vulnerable, and the melody is both catchy and melancholic.
It perfectly captures that uncertainty of young love.
Exactly. And then there's He's So Fine Baby.
Ooh, another great one.
It's pure pop perfection, but it's also kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, Goffin and King just knew how to capture that teenage angst like no one else.
They really did. It's like they had a direct line to the teenage soul.
So true.
But it wasn't all teenage heartache at the Brill Building. We also had the sophistication of Burt Bacharach and Hal David.
Oh, yeah, their music is so different, but also so iconic.
Right. Their songs had this wider appeal. They resonated with adults just as much as with teenagers.
So, what set them apart from other songwriters at the time?
Well, Bacharach and David were known for their really complex and sophisticated melodies.
Interesting.
They often incorporated like jazz and Latin influences into their music.
Wow, so their music was really pushing boundaries.
Yeah. But even though their melodies were complex, they never lost sight of the emotional core of the song.
I see, so they were sophisticated but still relatable.
Exactly, like take Walk On By, for example.
Okay, one of my favorites.
The arrangement is so lush and layered, but the lyrics are all about heartbreak and resilience.
Yeah, it's a song that you can listen to over and over again and still discover something new.
And then there's Do You Know the Way to San Jose?
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
It's a song about longing and belonging, but it's wrapped up in this catchy, almost whimsical melody.
It's like a bittersweet travelogue.
And of course, we can't forget Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head.
It's impossible to feel sad when you hear that song.
I know, it's just pure optimism set to music.
It's amazing how Bacharach and David were able to create songs that were both sophisticated and accessible.
Yeah, they were true masters of their craft.
So we've talked about Goffin and King and Bacharach and David. Were there any other notable songwriters at the Brill Building?
Oh yeah, tons. The building was overflowing with talent.
Like who else?
Well, you had Neil Sedaka with his incredibly catchy melody.
I love Neil Sedaka.
And then Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil, they brought this like blend of pop and soul to their songwriting.
Yeah, I can see how all these different songwriters would create this really vibrant and creative atmosphere.
Exactly. It was like a musical think tank.
So cool.
And that's what's so fascinating about the Brill Building. It wasn't just one sound. It was this whole spectrum of styles and genres all coming together under one roof.
So it's like a microcosm of the 60s music scene as a whole.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to delve into next. We're going to unpack the specific musical elements that define the Brill Building sound.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear more.
So we've talked about all these amazing songwriters, but what about the music itself? What actually makes a song a Brill Building song?
Right, good question. It's hard to pin down exactly, but think about like youthful energy, those big dreams, all wrapped up in a catchy melody and like a driving beat.
Yeah, you can practically hear like the city streets and the teenage dreams in these songs.
Totally. Like Be My Baby by the Ronettes.
Oh, such a classic.
That drum intro, oh man, the vocals, the wall of sound production, it's pure teenage excitement.
And the lyrics are so simple, but they just hit you right in the feels.
The night we met, I knew I needed you. So, like, come on, that's powerful stuff.
It's like instant connection, instant desire.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about capturing those teenage emotions. These songs were also musically sophisticated.
Yeah, we talked about Bacharach and David's complex arrangements, but even the songs that sound simpler on the surface have this real depth to them.
That's what's so cool about the Brill Building. They were pushing boundaries, blending genres, but they always kept the melody front and center.
So it was about good songwriting, period, not just teen themes.
Exactly. Like Neil Sedaka, breaking up is hard to do.
That song is just as relatable today as it was back then.
And Sedaka had such a distinct style, different from Goffin and King or Bacharach and David.
What would you say set him apart?
Well, he could write these super catchy melodies like earworms, but there was also this playfulness to his music, almost mischievous.
That's a good way to put it. Catchy hooks, relatable lyrics. That's a recipe for a hit song.
Definitely. And speaking of hit makers, we can't forget Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil.
You've lost that love and feeling. Gives me chills every time.
So much soul, so much passion. Mann and Weil brought a different energy to the Brill Building.
In what way?
Well, they weren't afraid to get raw and bluesy. Their songs had this grit and authenticity that really resonated with people.
On Broadway is another great example.
Oh, yeah. It tells such a vivid story about chasing dreams in the big city. You can practically taste the ambition and the struggle.
It's amazing how all these songwriters working in the same building could create such distinct sounds.
Right. It's like the Brill Building had this magical effect on people.
It really did. It was like a creative pressure cooker in the best way possible.
You had all this talent, all this ambition, all under one roof.
They were inspiring each other, pushing each other to be better.
And it wasn't just the songwriters either.
Right. You had the producers, the arrangers, the musicians, all working together to create these incredible records.
It was a true collaboration.
And that's something we don't always talk about when we discuss the Brill Building.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about individual genius. It was about the power of teamwork.
Exactly. It shows you what can happen when talented people come together with a shared passion.
And that's what made the Brill Building so special. It was a place where dreams were made, where hits were born, and where a generation found its voice.
And that legacy extends far beyond the 1960s.
Oh, absolutely. These songs have become part of our culture.
You hear them everywhere, in movies, TV shows, commercials. They're constantly being covered by new artists.
And they still resonate with listeners today, maybe even more so in our crazy world.
That's what's so fascinating about the Brill Building sound. It's timeless.
And that's what we're going to explore next. We'll talk about the lasting impact of the Brill Building, why these songs continue to capture our hearts and minds decades later. Okay, so we've talked about the history, the sound, the legacy, but here's the big question. Why do these songs written like 60 years ago still feel so relevant?
It's a good question. I think it's because the emotions they talk about are timeless, you know?
Like, what do you mean?
Well, like falling in love, heartbreak, chasing your dreams, dealing with relationships. These are things that people experience in every generation.
I guess that's true. The world has changed a lot since the 60s. But people haven't really changed that much.
Exactly. We still feel those same things. Vulnerability, joy, longing, all of it.
And the Brill Building songwriters? They really captured those emotions in such a raw and authentic way.
Yeah. They weren't afraid to be vulnerable, to show their flaws. You know what I mean?
Like they were saying, hey, it's okay to feel these things. It's okay to not be perfect.
Right. And that's such an important message, especially these days when everyone's trying to present this perfect image on social media.
So it's about connecting with that shared human experience, remembering that we're not alone in our struggles.
Exactly. And that's what great art does. It connects us across time and space.
And let's not forget the music itself. The melodies are so catchy. The arrangements are often really intricate.
Right. And the lyrics are both clever and meaningful. They're like little earworms that get stuck in your head.
You know what I mean? Like, will you love me tomorrow? Those harmonies are just so gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. And Leader of the Pack. That driving rhythm just makes you want to get up and dance.
And Walk On By, the orchestration is just so lush and beautiful.
These songs, they were crafted with such care and precision.
They're like little masterpieces.
They really are. It's like they knew they were writing songs that would stand the test of time.
So we've explored the history, the sound, the legacy of the Brill Building. But what does it all mean for us today? What can we take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is to just go back and listen to these songs again.
Yeah, With fresh ears?
Really pay attention to the lyrics, the melodies, the arrangements. Notice how they make you feel.
Maybe you'll discover something new.
Or maybe a line will resonate with you in a different way.
Because that's the beauty of great music. It's always evolving, always revealing new layers of meaning.
It's a conversation that never really ends.
So the next time you hear a Brill Building classic on the radio or on your playlist,
Take a moment to appreciate it.
remember all the talent and the passion that went into creating that song.
And remember that unassuming office building on Broadway where it all began.
Because the Brill Building wasn't just a place. It was a moment in time.
A cultural phenomenon that changed the face of music.
And those songs, they continue to inspire us.
They remind us of who we are
And they make us want to dance.
and sing along at the top of our lungs.
The Brill Building may be gone, but its legacy lives on.
In the music.
And in our hearts.